I pulled into my driveway at exactly 8:47 a.m. that Saturday morning, October 19th, 2024. The autumn air in Maple Grove had that perfect crispness that made everything feel more alive. At 36, I'd built what anyone would call a successful life. A beautiful colonial house with blue shutters I'd bought before the market exploded, a senior software engineer position that paid more than I'd ever dreamed of making, and what I thought was a happy marriage to Rachel. My BMW M3 sat gleaming in the morning sun, my one real indulgence after getting promoted to team lead last year. Saturday morning car washes had become my meditation, my escape from the chaos of debugging code and managing deployments. There was something pure about the process. Soap, rinse, dry, wax. No variables to account for, no edge cases to handle. Just simple, predictable results. I just filled the bucket with hot water and was measuring out the expensive pH-neutral soap when I heard the shuffling footsteps I'd come to know well. Tom! Harold Peterson's voice carried across the neat suburban lawns. At 73, my neighbor moved like someone perpetually walking on ice. But his mind was still sharp enough to beat me at chess every Tuesday evening. I set down my wash mitt and smiled. Harold had been more than a neighbor these past 5 years. He'd become almost like a grandfather to me. When his wife Martha passed 2 years ago from pancreatic cancer, I'd been there. Mowed his lawn when his arthritis flared up, fixed his computer when it acted funny, brought him groceries when the snow was too deep. My own parents lived across the country in Seattle, and I think Harold filled a gap for both of us. "Morning, Harold," I called out, walking to meet him halfway. "Everything okay?" His face was creased with frustration, the kind of expression he got when technology refused to cooperate. "It's this damn security camera app, you know, the system my grandson installed last month?" I nodded. After the Johnsons 3 houses down had packages stolen repeatedly, half the neighborhood had installed cameras. Harold's grandson, a tech-savvy college kid, had set him up with a comprehensive system during his last visit. "I think someone took my medication delivery yesterday," Harold continued, "but I can't figure out how to look at the recordings. The app keeps asking for permissions, and Lord knows what else." "No problem," I said, already drying my hands on my jeans. When was the package supposed to arrive? Tracking email said between 2 and 4 p.m. I was napping in the back room. Doctor says I need to rest more. Load of nonsense if you ask me. But when I checked the front porch at 5, nothing was there. And this is my heart medication, Tom. I can't afford to miss doses. The concern in his voice made me abandon my car washing immediately. "Let's go take a look. I'm sure we can figure it out." Harold's house always hit me with a wave of nostalgia and sadness. It still smelled faintly of Martha's lavender potpourri, though fainter now, like a ghost of a memory. The walls were covered with photos spanning 50 years of marriage. Their wedding, their kids, grandchildren, that cruise to Alaska Martha had always wanted to take. Harold kept everything exactly as she'd left it, down to her reading glasses still sitting on the end table. The security system setup was in the living room, an iPad mounted on the wall showing 4 different camera views in a grid. I could see the front door, the driveway, the backyard, and, I noticed with mild interest, a side angle that captured not just Harold's property, but part of my own driveway and front entrance. "The installer said it would record everything," Harold explained, hovering anxiously beside me. "But when I try to find yesterday's videos, it just gives me error messages." I navigated through the clunky interface, mentally noting at least a dozen UX failures I would have fixed if I'd designed it. After a few minutes of digging through poorly labeled menus, I found the recording archive. Okay, here we go. October 18th, 2024. What time did you say? Between 2 and 4. That's right. Amazon said 2:47 p.m. specifically, but you know they're never exact. I scrubbed through the timeline to 2 p.m. and set the playback to 2x speed. The suburban street was quiet, typical for a Friday afternoon when most people were at work. At 2:03, a mail truck passed without stopping. At 2:11, Mrs. Chen from down the street walked her ancient poodle. At 2:17, movement in the corner of the screen caught my eye. It wasn't Harold's driveway. It was mine. A red Lexus GS 350 pulled up, one I didn't recognize. My finger hesitated over the screen. Rachel's blue Honda Civic was nowhere to be seen, though it should have been in the garage. She'd texted me yesterday around 2:15 saying she had a terrible migraine and was working from home, probably going to lie down. The driver's door opened first. A man stepped out, tall, maybe 6'2", athletic build like someone who actually used their gym membership. Dark hair styled with that purposeful messiness that took effort to achieve. Something about him seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it from this angle. Then the passenger door opened, and my world tilted off its axis. Rachel, my wife of 8 years, stepped out of this stranger's car wearing the yellow sundress with small daisies that I'd bought her for our anniversary. The one she said made her feel beautiful and confident. Her hair was styled, makeup perfect. Not the appearance of someone suffering from a debilitating migraine. She moved with a lightness I hadn't seen in months, practically bouncing on her feet. "That's not your car," Harold observed innocently, adjusting his glasses to see the screen better. I couldn't respond. My throat had constricted like someone was slowly tightening a vice around it. On the screen, Rachel walked around the front of the Lexus, and the man met her halfway. What happened next shattered something inside me that I didn't even know could break. Rachel threw her arms around his neck and kissed him. Not a friendly peck, not a grateful thank you to a colleague who gave her a ride. This was passionate, hungry, desperate. The kind of kiss we used to share years ago before life got routine. Her body pressed against his hands on her waist, then sliding lower to cup her ass through the sundress. They stayed locked together for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds according to the timestamp. When they finally broke apart, Rachel was laughing, her face flushed. She grabbed his hand and practically dragged him toward our front door, fumbling in her purse for keys with her other hand. As the man turned to follow her, his face finally came into clear view of the camera. Connor Mitchell. The recognition hit me like a physical blow. Connor goddamn Mitchell, her work mentor, who'd been so helpful with her career development these past few months. The director of strategic planning who'd taken Rachel under his wing, who she quoted constantly over dinner while I pretended to be interested in corporate ladder climbing. The one whose advice had been invaluable and who really understood her potential. The timestamp showed 2:19 p.m. 4 minutes after she'd sent me that text about her migraine. "Can you?" My voice cracked. I cleared my throat, tried again. "Can you fast forward? See when they come back out?" Sure. Harold obliged, still blissfully unaware he was documenting the destruction of my marriage. I watched the timestamp roll forward in accelerated time. 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. My chest felt tighter with each passing minute. What were they doing in there for so long? Stupid question. I knew exactly what they were doing. 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, still nothing. Finally, at 5:47 p.m., the front door opened. Connor emerged first, adjusting his tie, running a hand through his now messed hair. His shirt was untucked on one side. Then Rachel appeared, and the knife in my gut twisted deeper. She was wearing her robe. The silk one I'd given her last Christmas. The one she said was too nice for everyday wear. Her hair was completely disheveled, her makeup gone. She looked like she looked on lazy Sunday mornings after we'd spent hours in bed. She pulled Connor back for another kiss in the doorway, long and lingering, her hand on his chest. They talked for a moment, Rachel gesturing animatedly, both laughing at some private joke. Then Connor walked to his car, Rachel watching from the doorway. She waved as he drove away, then stood there for another moment, touching her lips, before disappearing back inside. At 6:15 p.m., according to the timestamp, our garage door opened and Rachel's Honda backed out. She'd told me she went to get groceries for dinner around then. When I'd gotten home at 6:45, she'd seemed perfectly normal, maybe a little flushed, complaining about her migraine finally breaking. We'd eaten chicken stir-fry, watched 2 episodes of some Netflix show, and she'd gone to bed early, claiming exhaustion. I'd even rubbed her back as she fell asleep, worried about her migraines becoming more frequent. Tom? Harold's voice seemed to come from very far away. Son, you're white as a sheet. What's wrong? The room felt like it was spinning. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself, my mind racing through the implications. How many times had this happened? How many migraines? How many work-from-home days? How many late meetings with her mentor? I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Harold, can you email me this file? The whole day's recording? Of course, but Tom... Actually, I interrupted, my mind shifting into problem-solving mode, the only way I could function right now. Does your system keep historical footage? How far back? The installer said it keeps 90 days in the cloud, Harold said slowly, beginning to understand that something was terribly wrong. Tom, what's happening? I need everything from the last 30 days. Can you send it all to my email? While Harold fumbled with the export function, I was already taking action. First, I forwarded the initial clip to myself, then immediately to Marcus Chen, my lawyer friend who'd helped with my house closing. My message was brief. Call me ASAP emergency. Then, I created backups. One to my personal cloud storage, another to my private server. Evidence. I needed incontrovertible evidence before I did anything else. My phone showed Rachel's text from yesterday. Migraine is killing me. Going to sleep it off. Love you? Sent at 2:15 p.m. 4 minutes before Connor's arrival. The premeditation of it, planning the lie, sending the text, then greeting her lover, made my stomach turn. Files are uploading, Harold said quietly. Tom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what I was showing you. You have nothing to apologize for, I managed. You just saved me from living a lie. Without another word, I bolted from Harold's house. I didn't go back for my car, just ran the 100 yards to my own front door. Rachel's Honda was in the driveway. She'd told me she had Saturday morning yoga at 9:30, but that was clearly another lie. How many lies had there been? How many times had I kissed her, not knowing another man's taste was still on her lips? I burst through the front door to find her in the kitchen, humming along to some pop song on her phone while making breakfast. She was wearing yoga pants and a sports bra, her gym bag by the door, playing the part of the health-conscious wife perfectly. Hey, babe, she called out cheerfully, not turning around. I'm making your favorite omelet. I figured we could eat together before I head to yoga. Maybe we could check out that new farmer's market later? I was thinking... She turned around, saw my face, and the spatula clattered to the floor. Thomas? What's wrong? You look... Harold's security camera, I said simply. I watched her face transform in real time. The cheerful wife mask cracked, confusion flickering across her features, then dawning realization, and finally, pure, undiluted terror. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish gasping for air. Thomas, I don't... 3 hours, I cut her off, surprised at how steady my voice sounded when inside I was screaming. You had him in our house for 3 hours. I pulled up the video on my phone, held it out so she could see herself kissing Connor against our front door. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she stumbled backward until she hit the counter. Want to explain your migraine treatment? The words came out sharp, bitter. Because from where I'm standing, it looked a lot like Connor Mitchell's tongue down your throat. It's not what it looks like. The denial was reflexive, pathetic. I actually laughed, a harsh, broken sound that made her flinch. Really? That's what you're going with? You're in a silk robe at 5:47 p.m. seeing him out. Your hair's a mess. What was he doing, Rachel? Fixing the plumbing? Checking the Wi-Fi signal in our bedroom? Tears started streaming down her face. It just happened once. I didn't mean... Once, I pulled up Harold's cloud interface on my phone. The files were already starting to populate. Really? Because Harold's camera goes back 90 days. Should we check together? See how many times Connor's red Lexus appears in our driveway? All color drained from her face. She sank into one of the kitchen chairs, the ones we'd picked out together at that antique store in downtown, spending a whole Saturday debating between oak and cherry. Sit, I commanded. We're going to watch some home movies. The files were large, but my phone had good bandwidth. I started with October 1st, scrolling through the footage whenever I knew I'd been at work. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. October 3rd, 2:30 p.m. Connor's red Lexus pulled into our driveway. He stayed 2 hours. October 8th, 1 p.m. Another visit. This one, 3.5 hours. October 10th. I felt my heart stop. Our anniversary, I said, voice cold as Arctic wind. October 10th. I was in Denver for that emergency server migration. The one you said I shouldn't miss because it was important for my career. You said you'd celebrate alone with wine and Netflix. You even sent me that selfie with your glass raised in a toast. On screen, Connor's car pulled into our driveway at 11:58 a.m. By 12:15, they were unloading shopping bags from his trunk. Groceries, wine. I recognized the bottle. The 2015 Camus Cabernet I'd been saving for a special occasion, bought on our Napa Valley trip for our 5th anniversary. He stayed until 8 p.m. that night, I observed, fast-forwarding through the footage. And then, oh, look at this. At 7:47 a.m. on October 11th, Connor's car was still in the driveway. He emerged at 7:52, dressed in yesterday's clothes, Rachel in the doorway in her robe, kissing him goodbye like a wife sending her husband off to work. He spent the night in our bed, in our goddamn bed while I was in Denver fixing servers to keep my job that pays for this house. Rachel was sobbing now, ugly, gasping sobs that might have moved me yesterday. Today, I felt nothing but cold rage and a strange sense of clarity. How long? I asked. Thomas, please. How? Long. 4 months, she whispered. Since June, since the leadership conference, the one where you said you made such important connections. I laughed bitterly. I guess you weren't lying about that part. She nodded miserably, unable to meet my eyes. Where else? What? Where else did you have fun with him? In hotels, at his place, or always here in our house? Hotels felt wrong, she said, and the absurdity of that statement made me laugh again. Hotels felt wrong? Hotels felt wrong? But our bed felt right? The couch we picked out together? The kitchen counter where we make breakfast? The shower we renovated last year? She couldn't answer, just kept crying. I pulled out my phone and made my first call, putting it on speaker so she could hear. Marcus answered on the second ring. Tom? Got your message. What's the emergency? I need to file for divorce immediately. I have video evidence of ongoing adultery. Multiple occasions in the marital home? Jesus. Tom, I'm sorry. How solid is the evidence? Security camera footage. Time-stamped. 30 days worth so far, expecting 90 days total. That's ironclad. Can you come by Monday? Can we file anything today? Emergency motion? I want her out of the house. Let me make some calls. The house. Is it marital property? No, I bought it before we got married. It's only in my name. Good. That makes things simpler. Document everything. Download those files to multiple locations. Don't do anything rash. No violence, no destroying her property. Stay calm. Too late for that warning, I said, ending the call. My next call was to a locksmith. Emergency service? How soon can you get to Maple Grove? 45 minutes? Perfect. Every lock, including the garage codes. Rachel tried to stand. You can't just... Watch me. Third call. My brother Jack. I need you here now. Bring boxes in your truck. No, I'll explain when you get here. Just come. Thomas, please, we can talk about this. It didn't mean anything. Connor was just password. What? Your phone, email, everything, passwords now? You can't force me to. I pulled up LinkedIn on my phone. Connor Mitchell's smiling professional headshot filled the screen. Married to Victoria Mitchell. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, from the happy family photo on his profile. Director of Strategic Planning at Maxwell Industries, the same company where Rachel worked in marketing. Last chance, I said, fingers poised over my email app. Passwords, or I send everything to his wife and your HR department right now. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. Phone is 0810. Email is capital or Rachel exclamation 2016. I immediately logged into her phone, her email, her social media accounts. The evidence was overwhelming and nauseating. Text messages going back months. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Wear the yellow dress. C. Thomas is at another one of his coding meetups. Come over. R. I need you. When does he travel next? R. My bed feels empty without you. Victoria thinks I'm at the gym. C. 3 more hours until you're inside me. R. Photos. Nothing completely explicit, but enough. Rachel in lingerie I'd never seen. Connor shirtless in what was clearly our bedroom. I recognized the painting we'd bought in Barcelona on the wall. Selfies of them together at restaurants when she was supposedly at work dinners or with her book club. The email trail was worse. Detailed planning of their encounters. Complaints about their spouses. Plans for the future. Once my promotion comes through, I'll have more flexibility. We can travel together. Victoria never wants to go anywhere anyway. Connor. I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe it is time for a change. Thomas would never agree to counseling anyway. He thinks everything is fine. Rachel. That last one hit hard. I'd suggested counseling 6 months ago when I felt us drifting apart. She'd said we didn't need it, that we were just going through a busy phase. I forwarded everything to Marcus, then created multiple backups. As I worked, my phone started buzzing. Jack. I'm 5 minutes out. What's going on? Rachel's been having an affair. 4 months. I have proof. She needs to leave. Damn it. Tom, I'm so sorry. I'm almost there. Another message from Harold. Tom, I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do, Margaret says you're welcome for dinner anytime. I typed back. You've done more than enough. Thank you, Harold. Your camera might have saved my life. Next call. Rachel's parents. Her father, Richard, answered with his usual warmth. Tom, how's my favorite son-in-law? Richard, I'm sorry to call like this. I have something difficult to tell you. What's wrong? Is Rachel okay? Physically, yes. Richard, I have security camera footage of Rachel having an affair. 4 months. Multiple times in our home. The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. That's impossible. There must be some misunderstanding. I have 30 days of footage so far. She's confessed. I'm filing for divorce. Put her on the phone. Richard, put her on! Now! I held out the phone. Rachel took it with trembling hands. Daddy? Yes, it's true. 4 months. I don't know, Connor made me feel, no, Thomas doesn't know about, please, Daddy, don't. Her father's voice was loud enough for me to hear. Your mother and I will be there in an hour to help you pack. Rachel ended the call, fresh tears streaming. My dad, he's never been that angry. Not even when I crashed his car in high school. Consequences, I said simply. I made another call, this one to my company's HR emergency line. Hi, this is Thomas Wright, employee ID 4847. I need to report a potential security issue. I've discovered evidence that Connor Mitchell and Rachel Wright have been using company resources for an inappropriate relationship. Yes, I have documentation. Email and text evidence showing use of company devices. Yes, I understand. I'll forward everything to the compliance department. Thank you. You didn't have to call my work, Rachel whispered. Company phones, company email, company policy against relationships between departments. You both signed the same code of conduct I did. The locksmith arrived first, an older man named Carl who took one look at the scene, Rachel crying at the kitchen table, me stone-faced with my laptop, boxes stacked by the door, and got to work without questions. The professional discretion of service workers who'd seen it all. Jack arrived minutes later, immediately pulling me into a bear hug. My younger brother by 2 years, but built like a linebacker where I was more runner's build. He'd never liked Rachel much, thought she was pretentious, but he'd kept his opinion to himself for my sake. Whatever you need, he said simply. Help her pack. I don't trust myself to be in the same room. Rachel's parents arrived as the locksmith was finishing the front door. Richard Wright was 70 years old, a retired Marine who still carried himself like he could do 100 push-ups. Helen Wright, 68, usually warm and grandmotherly, looked like she'd aged 10 years on the drive over. Richard took one look at his daughter and shook his head. In your own home, he said quietly. Where you sleep. Where you eat meals with your husband. Where you plan to raise children. Daddy, Save it. You're 34 years old, not some teenager. You knew exactly what you were doing. He turned to me. Tom, I'm sorry. This isn't how we raised her. Helen couldn't even look at her daughter. Let's just pack, she said tersely. The packing was brutally efficient under Richard's military supervision. Clothes, jewelry, personal documents, toiletries. I'd already separated out the photo albums. She could have the ones with her family, but our wedding album, our vacation photos, those stayed. What about, Rachel started, reaching for a painting we'd bought in Barcelona. No, I said firmly. You can have what you brought into the marriage and your personal items. Nothing we bought together. The bedroom set was mine before. The bedroom set that you defiled with Connor? I don't want it. Take it. By noon, Rachel's Honda was loaded. Half the neighborhood seemed to be watching from windows or finding excuses to check their mail. Mrs. Chen walked her poodle past 3 times, each loop getting slower. The suburban gossip mill would be in overdrive by evening. Where am I supposed to go? Rachel asked, standing by her car. Connor has a nice house, I suggested coldly. Or your parents, or a hotel. You seem to think hotels are appropriate for some activities. She looked at me one last time, searching for something, forgiveness maybe, or a crack in my resolve. She found neither. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I replied. You regret getting caught. If Harold hadn't needed help with the camera, you'd be entertaining Connor in our bed right now, and I'd be working 60 hours a week to pay for this lifestyle. After they left, I stood in my empty house with Jack. The silence was deafening. Every room held memories now tainted with doubt. Did they have sex on this couch? Did Connor sit in my chair at the dining table? Did they laugh about me in the kitchen while cooking with my groceries? You want me to stay? Jack offered. No, I need to process this. Alone. He hugged me again. Call if you need anything. And Tom? You did the right thing. Quick and clean, ripped the Band-Aid off. After he left, I walked through each room like a crime scene investigator. The bed would have to go. I could never sleep in it again. The couch, too. Maybe the dining table. I started making a list on my phone, then stopped. Almost everything would have to go. My phone had been buzzing continuously. I finally checked the messages. Connor Mitchell. Please call me. We need to talk. Connor Mitchell. This doesn't have to destroy both our careers. Connor Mitchell. I have kids. Please. I deleted them without responding. Victoria Mitchell, Connor's wife. Is this a joke? Who is this? I called her back. Mrs. Mitchell? This is Thomas Wright. No, it's not a joke. Your husband has been having an affair with my wife for 4 months. I have security camera footage and electronic evidence. I'm about to send it to you. Silence. Then, How did you find out? Neighbor's security camera caught them. I have 30 days of footage showing your husband visiting my house while I was at work. Multiple times, including overnight stays. Overnight? Her voice cracked. He said he was traveling for work. Boston, Chicago. He showed me hotel receipts. I'm sorry. You deserve to know. Send me everything, please. Everything you have. I forwarded her the initial videos and some of the tamer text exchanges. Her gasps and sobs on the other end of the line broke my heart. Another innocent spouse, another life destroyed by their selfishness. The conference, she whispered. In June. He came back different, happier. I thought work was finally going well. That's where it started. They were both there. I have to go. The kids are at soccer. I have to pick them up. Victoria? Do you have someone who can help? Family nearby? My sister. I'll call my sister. She paused. Thank you for telling me. Most people wouldn't. By evening, I was sitting on my back porch, the one place I was certain they'd never defiled, nursing a beer and watching the sunset. My phone had been buzzing all day. Friends who'd heard. Colleagues who'd gotten wind of the HR investigation. My mother, furious and heartbroken in equal measure. One message stood out. From Harold. Saw her car leave. You okay, son? Margaret made extra pot roast if you're hungry. I walked over to Harold's house, where he was waiting on his porch with 2 beers and that kind, understanding face of someone who'd lived through enough to know when words weren't necessary. I'm sorry, he started. Don't be. You saved me from living a lie indefinitely. We drank in companionable silence for a while, watching the suburban evening unfold. Kids playing street hockey, the Johnson couple walking their new puppy, normal life continuing while mine had imploded. Martha cheated on me once, Harold said suddenly. I nearly choked on my beer. Martha had been the picture of a devoted wife, the kind who still packed Harold's lunch with little notes until the day she died. Back in '78, I was working nights at the Ford plant. She was lonely. Started something with a neighbor. He took a long pull of his beer. I found out when his wife told me. What did you do? Packed my bags, moved in with my brother, filed for divorce. He smiled sadly. Martha fought for us, though. Showed up at the plant every day for 2 weeks. Letters, calls, finally agreed to counseling. Took 3 years to really trust again, but we made it through. But that was different, I said. One mistake versus this. Harold nodded. The planning, the lies, using your own home. That's not a mistake, son. That's a choice, made over and over. That's different from a moment of weakness. How do you know when it's forgivable? You feel it here, he tapped his chest. When Martha told me everything, and I mean everything, no trickle truth, no minimizing, I was angry, hurt, destroyed. But underneath, I still loved her. Still wanted to fight for us. Do you feel that? I thought about it, really examined my feelings beneath the rage and betrayal. No, I feel empty, like she killed something that can't be brought back. Then you have your answer. Monday arrived with the inevitability of a hurricane. I'd barely slept all weekend, alternating between rage-fueled energy and complete emotional exhaustion. I arrived at work early before most of my team, but HR was already waiting. Mr. Wright, thank you for coming in. We've reviewed the evidence you provided. This is a serious breach of our code of conduct. The investigation was swift and brutal. By noon, both Rachel and Connor had been terminated. The evidence was overwhelming. Company phones used to coordinate meetings, company email for explicit messages, false time reports showing them in meetings when they were at my house. I heard about the terminations through the office grapevine. Connor had tried to deny everything until they showed him his own emails. Then he'd tried to blame Rachel, claim she'd pursued him, that he'd tried to maintain professional boundaries. They had timestamps showing he'd initiated most of the contact. Rachel had broken down completely, begging for another chance, promising to transfer departments, to do anything to keep her job. But Maxwell Industries had a zero-tolerance policy for relationships between departments that weren't disclosed to HR, especially when one party was in a position of authority over the other. By 2 p.m., my phone was buzzing with a text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. My kids will suffer because of your vindictiveness. Connor." I screenshot it and forwarded it to my lawyer, then blocked the number. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings and logistics. Marcus was brilliant, using the video evidence to fast-track everything. Connecticut was an at-fault divorce state, and adultery was grounds for an unequal distribution of assets. "The house is yours, premarital asset," Marcus explained. "She has no claim. The cars are separate property. Joint savings. Normally it would be split. But with this evidence, we can argue for an unequal distribution. Maybe 70-30 in your favor. I don't want her money. I just want her gone." "Noble, but stupid. That money is partially yours. You earned it while she was using your house as a hotel. Take what you're owed." The social fallout was immediate and harsh. Our friend group split like a cell dividing. Most sided with me once the facts came out. 4 months of deception was hard to defend. Sarah Martinez, Rachel's best friend since college, actually called to apologize. "I suspected something," she admitted. "The way she talked about Connor, always mentioning him. I should have said something." "What would you have said? 'Hey Tom, your wife mentions her coworker a lot?' I wouldn't have believed it." "Still, I'm sorry. What she did was unforgivable." Even Rachel's sister reached out. "I'm disgusted with her. Mom and Dad can barely look at her. She's living in their basement, crying about how unfair life is. You deserved so much better, Tom." The divorce proceedings moved with surprising speed. Rachel's lawyer tried to argue for alimony, citing emotional abuse and controlling behavior. The judge, a woman in her 60s who looked like she'd seen everything, was having none of it. "Mrs. Wright," she said coldly, "you conducted a 4-month affair in the marital home while your husband was at work. You used deception and premeditation to facilitate adultery. The only abuse I see here is of Mr. Wright's trust and the sanctity of marriage." Rachel got nothing beyond her personal belongings and her car. No alimony. She had to pay my legal fees. The joint savings went 70-30 in my favor, as Marcus had predicted. The entire process took just 4 months thanks to the overwhelming evidence. "I gave her everything," I told Marcus after the final hearing. Supported her career dreams, worked overtime so she could take that lower-paying marketing job she was passionate about. Renovated the house the way she wanted, planned our life around her timeline for kids. "And she threw it away for a guy who dumped her the moment things got difficult," Marcus replied. "Connor's LinkedIn shows he's already in a relationship with someone from his new company." I laughed bitterly. "She destroyed our marriage for someone who replaced her in 2 months." The news about Connor came from Victoria during one of our occasional phone calls. We'd formed an odd friendship, bonded by shared betrayal. "He's already dating someone new," she told me. 25 years old, just graduated last year. Same company he fled to after getting fired. How are you handling it?" "Better than I expected. The divorce was brutal. He fought everything. But I got the house, primary custody, and enough alimony to maintain our lifestyle. The kids are struggling, but they're in therapy." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. You freed me from a lie. I'm 43, Tom. I have time to build something real with someone who actually values faithfulness." 3 months after what I'd come to call Discovery Day, I was finally starting to feel human again. The house had been completely transformed. New furniture, new paint colors, new energy. I'd thrown myself into hobbies I'd neglected. Rock climbing, hiking, photography. Joined a cycling club that did weekend rides through the state parks. You look good, Amy from work mentioned one day. Happier, like a weight's been lifted. Feels like it too, I admitted. Amy had started joining me for lunch, then coffee breaks, then after-work drinks. She was everything Rachel wasn't. Straightforward, genuine, actually interested in my work instead of just pretending. She laughed at my coding jokes and got excited about new technology. When I mentioned I was training for a triathlon, she asked to join my running sessions. Fair warning, she said during one evening run. I'm slow, and I complain a lot about hills. Fair warning, I replied. I quote Star Wars when I'm exhausted. Do or do not. There is no try. Marry me. We both laughed, but there was something real underneath the joke. 6 months after Discovery Day, Harold's camera caught another interesting scene. Rachel's Honda creeping slowly past the house at 2 a.m. She'd stopped in front, sat there for 5 minutes, then driven away. She's done that 3 times this week, Harold reported over morning coffee. Want me to call the police? No, I decided. Let her look. Let her see what she threw away. The drive-bys became a weekly occurrence. Always late at night, always slow, always stopping for a few minutes before moving on. It was creepy, but technically legal. Public street and all. One night, I was returning from a late gym session when I saw her car parked across the street. Instead of going inside, I walked directly to her Honda and knocked on the window. Her eyes widened in terror, and she fumbled with the keys, trying to start the engine. I held up my hands in a peaceful gesture. We need to talk, I said through the window. She stopped trying to flee, shoulders slumping in defeat. After a moment, she rolled down the window. The car smelled like fast food and disappointment. Rachel looked terrible. Weight loss that wasn't healthy, discount store clothes instead of her usual designer outfits, hair that needed attention. Hi, she whispered. Hi. You look good, she said. Happy. I saw Amy's car here earlier. We need to talk about these drive-bys, Rachel. They have to stop. I know. I can't seem to move forward. Everything reminds me of what I threw away. That's not my problem. I know. The words came out sharp, desperate. I know it's not your fault. It's mine. All of it. I destroyed everything for nothing. Connor dumped me 2 weeks after we were fired. Said I was too much drama. I felt a twist of something. Not sympathy exactly, but pity maybe. I didn't know it was that fast. He was already texting someone else. From the new company. Apparently, he'd been planning his exit for months. She laughed bitterly. I thought I was special. He said I understood him, that I was different. Turns out I was just convenient. There's a diner on 5th Street, I said after a moment. 24-hour place. Follow me there. We talk, clear the air, then you stop driving by. Deal? She nodded. The diner was nearly empty. Just us, a trucker, and a tired-looking waitress. We took a corner booth and ordered coffee neither of us wanted. My parents barely speak to me, Rachel said after a long silence. My sister won't let me see my nephews. Says I'm a bad influence. I can't get a real job because everyone Googles me and finds out why I was fired from Maxwell. That's consequences, Rachel. Not punishment. Consequences. I know. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. Not the kind where they just validate everything I say. Dr. Morrison says I have narcissistic tendencies, that I rewrite reality to avoid accountability. Sounds accurate. I told her about the affair. The real truth, not the version where you were emotionally unavailable and Connor understood me. The version where I chose to betray you over and over for months. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I know. I did this. Not you, not our marriage, not circumstances. Me. I chose Connor because he was exciting and new and made me feel desired. I chose the thrill over the stability. I chose lies over truth. And how's that working out for you? I'm 41 years old, living in my childhood bedroom, working at a call center with kids half my age. So not great. We sat in silence while she cried quietly. The trucker left. The waitress refilled our cups without asking. What do you want from me, Rachel? Nothing. I wanted you to know that I know what I lost. That I understand now. You were a good husband. You loved me, supported me, built a life with me. And I threw it away for a man who saw me as nothing more than an easy lay. Connor's engaged again, I told her, to a 25-year-old. Her face crumpled. Of course he is. You need to move on, Rachel. Stop driving by. Stop living in the past. Build something new. How? How do you start over when you've destroyed everything? One day at a time. New job, even if it's not ideal. New place, even if it's small. New life, even if it's not what you planned. Do you ever think about us? What we had? I think about what I thought we had. But that was an illusion. The real you was someone capable of looking me in the eye over dinner while planning to screw another man the next day. That's who you really are. I could change. No. The word came out firm, final. Rachel, I'm with Amy now. We're happy. We're building something based on truth, not lies. I'm not your backup plan. I know. I just had to try. This is the last time, Rachel. No more drive-bys, no more emails, no more anything. If Harold's camera catches you again, I'll file a restraining order. Okay? Get help. Real help. Not for me, not to win someone back, but for yourself. Because this? I gestured at her. This isn't living. This is just existing. We left the diner separately. I never saw her car on my street again. A year after Discovery Day, I proposed to Amy on my back porch, the one place that had always been truly mine. Harold's camera caught it all in crystal clear 4K. He'd upgraded his system twice, claiming he needed better resolution for security. Now that's the kind of footage I like capturing, Harold said when he showed us the video at our engagement party. Much better than, well, you know. Amy squeezed my hand. She knew the whole story, had seen some of the footage when I'd explained why I had trust issues. She'd been patient, understanding, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. The past is past, she said. What matters is now. The wedding was small, intimate. Harold walked me down the aisle since my father had passed years ago. He gave a speech about second chances and the courage to trust again that had everyone in tears. Some cameras catch thieves, he said, raising his champagne glass. Some catch moments of betrayal. But the best cameras? They catch the moments when life begins again. I found out through LinkedIn that Rachel had finally found steady work at a nonprofit, something with substance abuse counseling. Her profile photo showed someone who looked older, more serious, but maybe more authentic than the polished marketing executive I'd been married to. Connor's story ended differently. His new fiancée EE had called Victoria for the truth about their divorce, and Victoria had obliged with screenshots and dates. The engagement ended. His career stalled. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Florida, far from the corporate heights he'd once climbed. Karma's a bitch, Victoria said during our last call. But I'm grateful. Found someone real. A teacher believes in commitment. We're taking it slow, but it's good. I'm happy for you. Be happy for yourself, Tom. Welcome to the neighborhood, little one, Harold said, bringing over a casserole Margaret had made. Don't worry, our cameras only catch the good stuff now. Life settled into new rhythms. Weekend farmers markets, Amy loved them, family dinners with Harold and Margaret, watching Sarah take her first steps in the living room that had been completely transformed from its past life. One day, while organizing the basement, I found a box I'd missed during the Great Purge. Our wedding album. Rachel's face smiled up at me from a dozen photos, both of us looking so young, so certain of our future together. What's that? Amy asked, coming downstairs with Sarah on her hip. The past, I said, holding up the album. Want to keep it? I thought about it. The photos represented 8 years of my life, not all of them bad. There had been genuine moments of happiness before the betrayal, but keeping them felt like holding on to a lie. No, I decided. That life was built on a foundation that wasn't real. This one is. We donated the album to a local artist who used old photos and collages. Better to let it become part of someone else's art than sit in our basement like a ghost. 3 years after Discovery Day, Harold's health started declining. At 81, his body was finally catching up to his age. Amy and I took turns helping with groceries, doctor's appointments, the little things that had gotten harder. You know, he said one afternoon, watching Sarah play in his living room, those cameras saved more than just your marriage. What do you mean? They saved mine too, in a way. Made me remember why I fought for Martha all those years ago. Why second chances matter when the person is worth it. He smiled. You and Amy remind me of us after we rebuilt. Stronger for having been tested. Rachel wasn't Martha, I pointed out. No, she wasn't. Martha made one mistake and spent the rest of her life earning back trust. Rachel made a choice to live a double life. That's the difference between a mistake and a character flaw. Harold passed that winter, peacefully in his sleep. He left me his camera system in his will, along with a note. For the good memories now. Keep watching over the neighborhood, son. We kept the cameras running, upgraded them again. They caught Sarah's first bike ride, her first day of school, Amy's promotion celebration. Good memories, as Harold had said. Sometimes I thought about the twist of fate that led to everything. If Harold hadn't needed help that October morning, if his camera hadn't caught that angle, if I decided to wash my car an hour later, the butterfly effect of small moments leading to life-changing revelations. But I'd stopped thinking in what-ifs. What happened, happened. Rachel showed me who she really was. Connor showed Victoria, and in showing us the truth, they'd freed us to find something real with people who understood that love wasn't just a feeling. It was a choice, made daily to be honest, faithful and present. 5 years after Discovery Day, I got a message through LinkedIn. Rachel had written a book about redemption after betrayal, from the cheater's perspective. She wanted to interview me for a chapter on forgiveness. I showed it to Amy, who read it with raised eyebrows. Are you going to respond? What do you think? I think some people never stop trying to rewrite their story. Making herself the protagonist of a redemption arc doesn't erase what she did. I marked the message as spam and moved on. Some chapters of life were meant to stay closed. That evening, as I watched Amy help Sarah with homework at the kitchen table, the same table where Rachel had cried 5 years ago, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Not for the betrayal, but for the clarity it brought. For Harold's cameras, for the chance to build something authentic with someone who understood that trust was earned daily, not assumed. Outside, Harold's cameras kept their silent vigil, now monitoring a different story. A family built on truth. A marriage based on respect. A life lived honestly. The camera never lies. And sometimes, that's the greatest gift of all. As I tucked Sarah into bed that night, she asked, Daddy, why does Mr. Harold's camera watch our house? I thought about how to explain it to a 5-year-old. Because sometimes, sweetie, it's important to remember the truth. And cameras help us do that. Like taking pictures? Exactly like that. But instead of just special moments, these cameras catch everyday truths. And sometimes, those are the most important ones. She seemed satisfied with that answer, drifting off to sleep. I stood in her doorway for a moment, thinking about all the truths those cameras had revealed. The painful ones that had shattered my first life, the beautiful ones that had built my second. In the end, Harold's cameras had done more than catch a cheating spouse. They'd caught the moment my authentic life began. And for that, I'd always be grateful to the old man who'd needed help with his app that October morning. The camera never lies, and neither did my life anymore.